All right. Good evening and welcome to the April 6th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Actually, we need to start recording. Please.
Recording in progress.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the April 6th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff, Jen, Alyssa, Liz, Mark, Amy, and Kristen. We're missing Courtney at the moment, so Pat, you're the appointed alternate. I'd like to remind commissioners that commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we can avoid speaking over each other. Also, that all votes need to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. As per Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19, now allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. For those of you waiting for a particular hearing, and so you don't wait unnecessarily, 267 Clinton Ave is requesting a continuance. First up, actually, I'd like to throw out a thank you to Kim Comart and the supporters from the Falmouth Town Meeting that tried to help us achieve our financial goals. So thank you for that. All right, next up.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm just letting you know Courtney's coming in.
Got it. First up, request for a continuance under notice of intent. 267 Clinton Ave LLC, 267 Clinton Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install and maintain an on-site Title V septic system upgrade, leaching field bed, and dewatering control system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 27th.
So moved. Second, Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 4/27. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4/27. And before we go any further, happy birthday, Courtney.
Well,
Happy birthday, Courtney.
Happy
Happy birthday.
Yay.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
The best birthday present I got was a town meeting vote last night to establish a municipal power plant for fiber optic network in the town to compete with Comcast. So that was a great victory and a great birthday present. But I woke up this morning and the birthday fairy sprinkled a little more curmudgeon dust on me. So watch out.
Oh boy. Well, congratulations to you and your committee, and thank you for all your efforts on that endeavor.
Yes,
All right,
congratulations.
business. Request for determination of applicability. First up, Carol McKeon, 1 North Bournes Pond Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove and reconstruct an existing deck and stairs and to install a dormer above the garage. Ms. Bergeron.
Yes, staff recommends a -2 under the state and -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawk, second.
Alyssa, if you would, take a second and explain to people what what it means when you say that the resource areas boundaries are not confirmed, please.
Yes, so typically under an RDA, we do not confirm any of the wetland delineations such as the coastal banks or salt marshes, any of our typical resource areas. We, sometimes with RDAs get plans, so it's just not something we typically confirm under this type of permit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Joseph and Jean McCabe, 58 Eel River Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove and relocate 3 existing timber pilings and to install a boat lift. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Maury,
I just had one question. Does this change the chapter 91 license because it's got a boat lift on it now?
That's a Jen question.
They're relocating a piling, so they're gonna have to get a minor modification, Maury.
Okay.
I'm assuming they'll have to go for a minor modification because I do believe, and it's been a couple of days since I saw that plan, I think they are moving a couple of pilings around to accommodate the boat lift. They're taking them from the north and moving one to the south.
And there's still enough water depth and all the other things that are required for
Yeah.
the dock. Okay, thank you.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Philip Sacco, 515 Davisville Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an existing garage and shed and to construct a new garage with a second story and deck. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Starbucks Holding LLC, 15 Beaman Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install and maintain a Title V septic system upgrade and leaching trenches. Ms. Bergeron,
Yes, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 27th.
Bird, so moved.
Carla Hawk, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until, I'm sorry, what was that for, what?
April 27th, 27.
Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4/27. Next up, request for hearing under a notice of intent All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes, so I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Heather Campion, 20 Sheridan Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct the existing licensed pier in the same dimensions and location. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Dave Martin up to present its project. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze.
You getting brokenhearted about it? All right. Mr. Martin, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall I share the screen or just describe the project?
Share your screen, Dave, please.
Screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Mrs. Campion needs to replace her existing, licensed pier. Resource areas present on the site are land under ocean, land containing shellfish, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and a coastal bank. The reason she needs to replace the pier is the pilings are deteriorated. One we looked at was actually in 2 pieces. The others are necking down and are in poor condition. The work would be done with a crane-mounted barge. Time for the barge on site is approximately 2 days. Smaller incidental work would take place days following, and that would be accessed from the land side across the lawn area. That's really all I can tell you unless there are some questions.
All right, thank you.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, please. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Division of Marine Fisheries, we received correspondence from them today and they don't have any additional recommendations at this time. We did kick this up to a notice because it did appear to be a complete reconstruction of the existing dock. So staff doesn't have any comments at this time, unless Alyssa, you had anything to add?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy.
No questions or comments, thanks.
Courtney.
I have no comments.
Kevin.
No, no comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Maury.
And there's no time of year?
No more, there's no time of year restrictions or anything.
Thank you.
Pat.
No comments, thank you.
Peter.
No questions, thank you.
All right. Steve.
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Dave, sorry you had to go up to this level, but we appreciate the documentation.
Well, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep. Hold
Good
on,
night.
Jen. Is there anything in the
We got to do a
public
little
chat
more
function?
here.
We're not going to let
Nothing
you go
public.
yet.
Are you closing the hearing, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'll make a
Not
motion to
yet.
close it.
Will you please stop? Kevin, you're the chairman. You're supposed to be keeping an eye on this stuff. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Man. All right, now I'd like to entertain a motion and a second, please.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. See what I go through, Dave? You think you got it rough? All right. We have a motion. Yeah. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. There's nothing further. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Thank you all and happy birthday, Courtney.
Thank you.
Good night, Dave.
Next up, Clarence E. and Amy Korsgaard, trustees, the Korsgaard 2020 Realty Trust, 23 Dealey Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a patio, walkway, and other landscape improvements. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project. Tom, anybody else coming up for your project team?
Nope, it's just me.
See you tonight? Okay, Tom.
Okay, thank you. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. We've prepared this plan for Corey and Amy Korsgaard, 23 Dealey Lane, West Falmouth. If I may share my screen, I haven't prepared fully. See if I can. I'm on the right track. Hold on a second.
Take your time. We have all night.
I think you want to get home. There we go, Dealey Lane. Okay. There's the plan.
Not yet.
Nope, it's working on it.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. This property on Dealey Lane, just south of Chase Road, parallels the bike path, which is just bike paths right over where my red stamp is over there. There's a Dealey Lane, and it, of course, the property runs from Dealey Lane down to Mashapaquet Creek, which enters into West Falmouth Harbor, and there's a salt marsh area along the edge of the creek. A couple of flood zones here along the creek itself. It's flood zone AE, elevation 17, up to this line, and from this line covering the rest of the lot, E, elevation 15. There is salt marsh along the frontage of the property here, and a lot of grass meandering around groves of cedar trees. This location, and actually looks like some of this grass is spread down into what would be considered salt marsh down in this area from foot traffic. A couple of years ago or so, this went through an RDA to upgrade the septic system. Has a denitrifying septic system up in this location, about on the farthest away it could be. And the house has undergone renovations, second floor added to it and all. And now they're getting to the Korsgaards are getting to the final, where they want to do a little bit of landscaping, partly in the front yard, in this location here, and these green. No, they're not. Sorry, they're not green. But these symbols are ornamental shrubs. Nothing here is counted toward mitigation. Some are native and some are not native. But so the main thrust of this project really was to get a walkway. There are two doors here, one in this location and one going in sort of behind the garage. See, the garage is right here. And so there was a landscape architect who put together a design for this walkway and shrubs planted around it. And this actually gets to one of the questions in the staff report pointing to the crushed stone here. And the crushed stone is all to go. And the surface will become these bluestone walks, and the rest will be loamed, and shrubs and whatever else. There are some existing stepping stones in gray running through here, not at the moment, but there are some now, but originally when they bought the property, there were some stepping stones through here also. There is in this area a little curious structure, a little roof over a brick patio. In this location, which they wish to remove. It's 138 square feet of brick surfacing here under the structure. And then they want to construct this patio. Again, on the RDA, when they bought it, there was a walkway through here. And so we count. It's because of other work they've done, this has already been disturbed and removed because of some grading through here, but I count that as a removal because it has been up there until, I'm not sure when it was removed, but it was there originally. This another question in the staff report, or her first comment, it appears that the stone patio is moving closer to the resource area. And of course, I'm comparing this stone patio, this 100 square feet of stone patio with the brick patio that's in this location. So this patio with a little structure, 66 feet from the salt marsh and less, about 60 feet or so from the top of the bank in this location. And this patio here is 79 feet from the salt marsh. So I was comparing these two, where this is a smaller area of paving than what's being removed. And so I consider it moving coverage, and it's further from the resource area. Not appear that relative to the house, something is moving closer, but relative to the part that's being removed, I say it's not moving closer, it's being moved further away. I have the calculations for what's being removed, the various small pieces, mainly the brick trellis. There is an existing stone wall and some stones next to the deck in this area, and they're being removed, and shrubs, the ornamental shrubs planted through here. The stone wall is through here, and the stones are here that are being removed. And the wall at the wall and step at the rear patio are, I think, is through here, the wall and step. That I have to check exactly where that is, but there was that other bit being removed. So the total removals of 269 square feet, and they're adding 100 square feet of bluestone, that patio behind there. And then this little, this retaining wall here takes up less space than the stone retaining wall that's in there now. And so we have just 112 square feet being added back in. So there's a reduction in zone A, and there's a little bit more of the stones southwest of some of these stones are in zone B right here, and that's the other 10 square feet of stones. There's a net decrease of 167 square feet in zones A and B, But because of the walkways in front of the house, well, the removals in zone A and B, then the existing front walk being removed, but then the new walk being added, the generator air conditioning, so there's 469 square feet being added. There's a total increase of 148 square feet, doubled, so 296, basically 300 square feet of mitigation planting were proposed on the plan that was filed. And I had this mitigating in here underneath. Saw some of the cedar trees they're limbed up, probably some naturally and some by human intervention. And this is a grass area here to be planted. Another staff comment not to use the Juniperus horizontalis in the area here, which partly would be shaded. And third comment is if you have all of the staff report, it's picked out. It's picked out that it looks like this deck in the early 2000s was expanded before the Coast Guards owned it. So I looked through the photos and I tried as I might to figure it out. Tried to figure, of course, that it wasn't expanded, but I think it was perhaps around 4 feet. It's 16 feet wide now. It might have gone from 12 to 16 feet roughly in that area. So if I can, I will show, pull up another screen. If I have it here, let's see. So on this, and I emailed it over, and this is another last minute. If I need to, I can take a continuance. I've just got some plans in now. But I have it marked on here. There's about four feet wide deck expansion, about 92 square feet. So I've recalculated the coverage basically at 92 square feet for the riverfront mitigation. There still is a slight decrease in zone A and B for the Falmouth wetland regulations, but for the riverfront calculations added 92 square feet, which would be 198. I think I added 200 square feet of planting. I have 190 square feet of marsh elder along this stretch, just above the salt marsh in this location. And comment regarding the species composition in this mitigation, I changed. So out here where it's in the lawn area on the south side exposed to sun, I put in 2 bayberry plants, sort of blocking off this planted area, and then within it, some the high bush blueberry as was there before. That can take some shade, Clethra alnifolia, and also some Aronia melanocarpa, which is black chokeberry. So, and there were fewer. I think there were only 10. There are fewer plants proposed before. So now I have 35 plants, which is in the range of between 33 and 38 plants to plant in this 300 square feet, and the 190 square feet roughly take 21 to 24 of the marsh elder plants along this location here. And in this plan, you can see the green, this is all the ornamental planting around the house, and you can see the walkways proposed up in here. So that's what's being proposed, and we can discuss one or the other or both plans or whatever, and I'll stop the share. Okay, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Tom, thank you for putting over the revised plan. But I think, and Alyssa and I have been talking today about how we're going to address these. I understand you're trying to address our staff report and they come to you a day or so before. But we don't have time to evaluate the plan like right before the hearing.
No, I understand.
And we know you're getting the staff reports only like a day before or so, and we get it. But basically the staff reports are written to just kind of guide the commission and give them some talking points and regulations. So don't feel it necessary that you have to get everything in at once. And we know you want a one and done. We get that. But some of these are.
As I said, I will, I understand you probably would want a continuance. I mean, if you can count this as filed today, then we can discuss it next week if there's room next week.
Okay, I'll check the schedule for you, Tom.
Yeah. You're quickie, right?
I like how you did that. But just don't feel it necessary to get them in because we just can't evaluate them.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That said, it appears that you have addressed some of our concerns with the larger deck that we pick up on our super duper aerials now. Just a few other points. The board is going to have to determine whether you feel that patio is technically moving closer because it is moving closer than the present primary structure. But if you wanted to swap, the two patio areas, we can make some findings on that. Tom, are they going to remove the little wire fence? I'm assuming the little wire fence is to keep the geese out from the lawn.
I'm not sure what it's for. I know Alyssa talked to
yeah, that should just be removed as well as the little bench in the marsh. There are some there's like some bricks in the marsh. Can we remove those as well?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll take out anything.
Yeah.
There's some other bricks under some of the cedar trees too.
Yeah, but let's just kind of remove all those bricks. We'll go out if we can, or we'll look at the pictures and evaluate where you have put the new mitigation plantings for the deck expansion. So thank you for addressing that. Unfortunately, there wasn't a building permit. So your clients we know that the building department was going out there because we're not quite sure if that extension was built to code. So I do think the building department was gonna check on that, especially where the deck expansion is, and it's almost going like that, the ground, and then they have the block and then the post. So they may have to modify that to bring that up to building code, but that's going to be a building department decision.
I did forget to bring up that they want to put a fence on the east side of the house. I know that.
I do believe Alyssa, and she can speak to that, spoke with the property owners and instructed them to file with us when they want to do that. I think it's for a dog enclosure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So we can address that with the property owners at a later date. That's fine. And I'm missing something. Oh, thank you for switching out the creeping juniper. Clethra will do well, and it'll figure out how to survive in the shade.
It'll be better than the honeysuckle that's growing around there now.
Yes, I know. And I think that's it, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
Just to clarify, I didn't speak to the homeowner about the short metal fence by the salt marsh, about the dog fence.
Well, I sent them the staff report.
Okay, yeah, I know she wants to, the homeowner that I spoke to, she wants to extend the proposed fenced area to give more room for the dog. I just said, when she's figured out an idea to the extent of that fencing, to talk to you, put it on the plan, we can administratively review it if it's properly placed away from the salt marsh and the resources.
And I talked to her today, and it sounds like it might be a split rail fence, not a metal picket fence.
Okay.
But they'll get that information to you and decide what can be done.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, Jen, you all set?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
I'd just like to say, I think the staff reports are very helpful for all of us, and I really appreciate that the applicants and engineers pay attention to them, and 99% of the time, you guys come before us and address them and get that right out of the gate, which I think is efficient for all of us. So we just have to work on how can we, so that when you do address it, you don't get stuck with a continuance, you know? I mean, we still have to follow procedure, so I'm not throwing out there that we're gonna be able to let them all fly, but it is something we need to work on. But I just want you to know that, you know, the effort you put in is appreciated, and and overall it makes it, you know, the whole thing much better. So thanks. All right, commissioner comments. Courtney.
I'll echo your comments, and I have no other ones.
All right. Kevin.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Maury. You're on mute.
The aerials did show the expansion of the deck, but were all those patios existing and permitted? Mostly the one by the salt marsh?
The one really close?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's under the trees. I don't think you could see that. The one further away with that little structure over it. I did on an early, actually, I think it was I'm sure it was a 1975. I found an old aerial photo that had a blur of something in that location where the little roof structure is. It's the best I could do.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Thank you. This was a Grace property, correct? Back in the day?
I actually don't know who.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Pat.
No questions. Thank you.
Peter.
No questions, but I have a comment. I think it's great that the engineers work closely with the comments from the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Steve.
Thank you. I was going to agree with you, Mr. Chairman, with your comments. It certainly has made our job easier. I work harder on my site visits to try to find something that they didn't see yet, but rarely do I succeed. And even Courtney appreciates them.
Betsy.
Questions or comments?
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat function, and I'm looking at the aerials, and Maury, it's hard to see under that canopy. I just pulled up the 75 aerial, and it's too blurry for me to see. It could be a tree, it could be a...
Yeah, no, it's not a big deal. It's just, as long as we put a finding in that there's no expansion or anything else.
Okay.
Pretty amazing. You can go back to 1975, huh? Wish I could. Anyway. All right. So Jen, in your opinion, is this warrant a continuance?
I'd like to go out and look on where, sorry, I was going to say Mark. Mark must be thinking about me. Where he wants to put the
marsh elder.
Yeah, the marsh elder. Unless Alyssa, you were on that site. Do you think do you remember?
I think the marsh elder is where that the metal bench is, right? That we were asking to be removed.
Yeah. Okay. In that area, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like there was a flat area there if you look.
Yeah, I was just looking at the pictures and it seemed like there's room. So I don't particularly think in this case we need a continuance, Tom, for you. But that might not always be the case.
No, I understand.
But don't feel that you need to rush to answer. You can answer them at the hearing.
Yeah, I had nothing better to do this afternoon.
Okay. All right. We're all set, Mr. Chair.
You received the new plan?
We have it. Tom will give us a hard copy tomorrow, won't you, Tom?
I absolutely will, yes.
Yeah, I only need 2, Tom.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
And
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. And Courtney, I guess a happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
My birthday's coming up in 3 weeks, so I guess that makes me only 3 weeks younger than you.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Tom, is
it.
it on a Wednesday? Do we get to wish you happy birthday too?
You've aged well.
Well, it's actually 3 weeks in a day, so I guess we'll miss it. Yeah, 22 days. All right, thank you.
Tom, are you done for the night or am I putting you back in attendees?
No, you can kick me out. I'm done.
All right. Have a good night,
All right.
Mr. Bunker.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Good night.
All right, next up. Catherine Kafalis, 389 Shorewood Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct additions onto the existing garage, relocate a septic tank, reconstruct a landing, construct walkways, and install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Robert Kafalis up to present the project, I believe.
That's correct. Thank you. My name is Robert Kafalis, and I am presenting a project for 389 Shorewood Drive. The owner is Catherine Kafalis, which is my sister. I just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Mr. Kafalis, would you like me to promote her up to a panelist?
She's fine, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, though. And I would like to go over the plan I submitted with, and I want to thank staff again. They did a great job supporting me with my questions that I had during the design phase of this project. I would like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just see how I do that. Have I been promoted? Yep.
Yep, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay, so I'm going to start with, do you guys see the plan?
Yeah, it's just a little upside down. Oh, wait, you know what? That's my plan.
Sorry.
So the answer is no, sir.
No, sir. Sorry about that, sir.
We don't see yours.
All right, hold on. Let me do this again. Screen share. And I'm going to do this one. How about now?
It's coming up. Yes, excellent.
I put some colors there to walk over the project. The property is located at 389 Shore Drive. The west boundary of this property abuts Great Pond. The existing dwelling located right here outside of the 100-foot zone was constructed in the mid-70s. And we've highlighted the flood zone VE elevation 15 and the flood zone A elevation 12, and then the 25-foot offset. And the proposed work we're asking to construct is in the south east corner of the building, the dwelling. We would like to ask for permission to construct a 7 by 22-foot addition here at the front of the building. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. This will allow us to build a garage, and the work would include lifting up the roof and doing a second story in this section of the dwelling. Work would include changing the geometry slightly of the driveway to have access to the front of the building. We would use a pervious driveway material, and I've kind of outlined the new location of it. Work would also include removing the brick walk that exists right here and putting in pervious pavers and replacing the wood steps with granite and doing some modifications on this deck to put a small roof. Then we would also, there's an existing doorway at the northeast corner of the building has 3 small steps, wood steps that enter this access point. We would like to construct a landing outside the doorway and then include 3 steps and then some pavers just to get access to the walkway. The other work that's included with this project is I had talked to Public Health back in October and November, discussing the location of the septic tank, and we submitted an application, and he's said to me that as long as we maintain the 10-foot setback from the proposed addition, he has no issues. So we're going to relocate the tank beyond the 10 feet and make sure we maintain all the setbacks required. I talked to the zoning officer also. He had no zoning issues with the project. The majority of this work is located in the coastal bank zone. So we discussed with staff what mitigation would be required. My understanding is within Zone B, it's a 2-to-1 ratio, and in Zone A, it's a 3-to-1. So Zone A is a small area right here of these granite steps and landing, which will require 63 square feet of planting. Zone B, we increased slightly the square footage of the walkways and the driveway. I think we increased it slightly under 100 square feet. Then, of course, we have the addition, which is a 7 by 22 foot area, the 154 square feet. And this is all within the Zone B. This Zone B increased our mitigation planting by almost another 500 square feet at a 2-to-1 ratio. We recommend, well, we would ask that we locate the mitigation planting in this corner. I know I've just gave you the square footage. I did hear earlier from another panelist saying that it is nice to know that we would have probably over 65 plants. I can put that on the plan just so it's clear what's being installed out there. We propose erosion control along these edges. We don't see any need to go beyond those corners. I did also look, and this was included in the calculation, a small walkway over here, just to have access to the proposed side door. I think, again, I can highlight some of these. We had a wetland scientist outside who flagged these locations in the beginning of the year. And I think we also had an architect confirm. We just did some observation locations to confirm the foundation would be reused. All these things were requested by staff, and I think we included that. The last thing I want to mention is that this work is going to require the removal at a minimum 1 tree, which is located in the front of the building. I would also request that we remove these 2. They're within 10 feet of the building structure. We can plant additional ones if you would like. I just felt that right now they're mature trees and there's an area here that doesn't get much sun. And we were just concerned that it's detrimental for the structure that's existing right now. So these are the 3 that we would like to remove. And we'd like to protect all the other trees. I think I've covered most of the questions that were on the, or comments that were on the staff report. I don't know if you guys have any questions you want to go over the project with me. I'd be happy to explain anything.
Thank you, sir. You can stop sharing.
Okay.
Please. All right, Jen.
Thank you, Mr. Cavalis. The only thing is the 3 trees you want to remove. The only thing the board may require is maybe replacing one of them in the back near the salt marsh. It's a pretty big, expansive lawn area. We usually do some tree replacement. So let's see what the board said. And as Alyssa put in her staff report, we do have a stamp I know Maury might ask, and Betsy, we do have a plan with a PLS stamp in the office, so that requirement has been met. I don't have any other comments unless Alyssa does, Mr. Chairman.
I'm all set, thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments, questions, Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Maury?
The only one question I did have was, is it going to be an increase in flow with the new addition?
The new addition will increase the floor. Yes. What's going to happen is we're going to lose where the garage is, that's square footage. And so the new floor square footage would be approximately, let's say the addition is a 22 by 45. I can calculate out. So at least 800 feet on the second floor. And then we'd have to subtract the staircases that would be going on.
Actually, that's not what I meant. I meant the flow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean floor. I thought the flow to the septic. Another bedroom.
Oh, no, we're not increasing the number of bedrooms. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I apologize.
No problem. Pat?
No questions, thank you.
Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
No question.
Betsy?
No questions, just a comment that thanks for working with staff. That was a nice, clean plan and clean report, clean presentation.
I want to thank Alyssa also for supporting me too. I had a lot of questions and she was very responsive. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll see if she makes the 90-day probation. All right, Courtney.
I agree with Betsy's comments. You did a nice job of presentation and you were very thorough. Thank you. And I have no questions.
All right, I'm going to be the bad guy. I think we should have a tree.
Not a problem. I was just hoping you would tell me where. I would prefer to put it on the north side, but any recommendations would I would listen to if it's just one tree. Is that something I can put on the plan or I can just get direction from Alyssa or Jennifer?
That's fine, sir. We'll send you, we'll write it into the order of conditions and we can work with you on the placement of the tree in the field.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem, sir.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Word, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Reinfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Word, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat.
RSI.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, people. Thank you very much.
Yep. Good night.
Thanks, sir.
Good night.
All right. Next up, Stephen Proya, 317 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct an existing licensed dock. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'll share my screen.
Yes, sir.
The applicant owns a property at 317 Edgewater Drive West. I've highlighted it on this aerial photo. It has a existing single-family dwelling, an existing licensed dock. It's on the shores of the western shore of Eel Pond. I will now show you the plan. The site plan is shown here. So resource areas of note include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a salt marsh area. There's a small dune. There's a coastal bank on the plan, not on the plan, I should say. More on that in a second. There's an existing single-family dwelling, driveway, and other typical appurtenances for a residential property. The existing dock is shown on the plan, and we note the proposed dock superimposed over it. There is a profile view. The property owner wishes to rebuild the dock to make it more resilient to storms. It's currently supported by 4x4 posts that are tightly spaced together. You can see the profile view of the dock here in the background. It's a very low profile dock. It has solid wood planking, a small ramp, and a float. The float is actually bottom anchored by chains versus supported by posts. So the chains are cross anchored underneath, and it moves back and forth there is some slack in the chains. The new dock will increase the pile spacing. It'll increase the size to 10 inch, but it'll increase the pile spacing to 16 feet on center, as you're used to reviewing. It'll elevate the walkway over the salt marsh, and it'll transition back down with stairs so that the terminal end of the dock stops right at the salt marsh. The new one will completely bridge it. This is the standard construction you're used to seeing. It's all within the same alignment and footprint as what is licensed. Now I can speak to the staff report. The comments raised in the staff report included that comment about the coastal bank. I neglected to highlight a low profile coastal bank that runs through here. I was focused on the dock. I just missed it. So I'm happy to add the coastal bank and the A and B zone to the coastal bank. The second comment by staff relates to an administrative approval. Evidently, there was an approval, and it happened to be Alyssa at the time working with my client, unbeknownst to me, where a tree was request for one tree to be removed and was granted with a proposal to replace it with 4 new trees. My client, I forwarded this to my client and this report to my client, and I happened to follow up with Alyssa today during the day. And the trees are certainly intended to be installed. At the time in late August, when he went to the nursery, there was no stock due to supply chain issues, evidently. He is subsequently, as I got an email from him this afternoon where he called the nursery. They had them, he ordered them. I don't know if they had them in stock, but he ordered them. They're supposed to be available in April, and he intends to install them in sometime later in April. So it was an administrative review. He wasn't trying to avoid putting in the trees. There was no stock. So those are ordered and on the way. There's a small set of stairs right here. This is another comment. Timber stairs that sort of lead to nowhere. They serve no purpose. There was a recommendation for these to be removed, so we certainly can remove those and restore that area after the timber stairs are removed. They're falling apart and they lead to nowhere. They serve no purpose. And finally, there was a comment about this concrete grate. I'm going to call it concrete grate, G-R-A-T-E, driveway. It's one of those waffled structure driveways that has sand in between the voids. there's a trade name for it. There's different ones out there, but there's a trade name for this one. Evidently, it was on a plan from the 90s called grasscrete, with the suggestion being that you can plant grass in the voids. Well, the prior owner did use the grasscrete material, but he didn't propose at the time, and he didn't plant grass in the voids. He simply filled them with pea stone. So that was common back then. It was an effort to reduce runoff into the wetland resources, but it was never intended to actually be grass in the voids. Just that was another comment. I talked about all these with Alyssa, and I think I satisfied her concerns. I think that sums up my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll unshare my screen.
Thank you, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of things, but I'm looking something up right now. Mike, did you get, did you get your letter from Mass DMF?
Oh yeah,
Because
I did.
They want 6 feet now between the marsh and the bottom of the stringers.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yes, I did, and I talked to Alyssa about that. If I could share my screen 1 more minute. I have the letter. Here's the letter. The letter makes has a couple comments. You probably all know there's a new policy that the ratio is 1.5 to 1, where the height shall be 1.5 times the width of the walkway. So that translates to 6 feet, but it's measured from the bottom of the stringers, not the deck. So my plan, if you look at my profile, shows it a 6 foot minimum to deck per DMF policy. That 6 feet is supposed to be to the bottom of the stringer. So that means I have to raise this up basically another foot. So I had meant to say that I intend to revise the plan and provide a revised plan. So if it needs a continuance, I'm happy to request one. It also talks about the floats and the fact that the floats currently in their licensed position can't provide the what they recommend for separation from the substrate. So they recommend that we fasten the float stops to the float to provide the separation from the substrate that they recommend. So I have every intention to make those revisions to the plan. I would show the float stops and elevate the walkway, and of course add the coastal bank.
Jen, anything else?
I'm just kind of concerned about that driveway. So with Mike's information, we need to go back. He has to make the revisions to the plan, so we'll need a continuance anyway, but I do kind of want to research that driveway a little bit. So we can talk to Mike about that after.
Concern being that it may have been a requirement for grass or
grasscrete or something, yes.
But it's impervious, so I'm sorry, it's pervious, so. Relevant if it's sand or grass.
Well, it's not. The thing is these types of systems, and this is kind of the thing that's getting staff. We're getting away, and we're not mitigating for these increases in these systems where they claim the grass is going to grow through them. And some of them work, and we've seen some beautiful ones that are maintained like this. We've also seen systems like this that are completely filled with gravel. They haven't mitigated for them because they say there's going to be grass through them. So I would like the time to research this now that Mike gave us the information that, and Mike didn't know. So we just need time to look back and see when these paver type things were permitted and whether or not, they were put in after and in lieu of mitigation. That's all we need to look at. As well as, Mike just has to do the plan, redo the plan to satisfy 6 foot to stringers now instead of 6 foot to decking.
Yep, and the float stops.
And the float stops, yeah.
All right. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Jen, I'm curious, and it's not with this particular project, so I'm not picking on you, Mike, or your client, but I'm just curious about the pavers. The whole premise of these is to allow water flow, correct?
But some of them have
So-
stone dust under them and everything else, and they sheet water off. So, and pervious is fine, but it has to be mitigated for. In some circumstances, using these types of materials, and I can think of 2 instances off of my head, one in Woods Hole and one in North Falmouth, where the board required the applicant to show an area of where future mitigation could go if this type of system failed. So, and that was off of Wild Harbor Road. And that grass pave or grass creed or whatever you call them, I think that one over there is grass pave, is absolutely beautiful. It's all grass and everything. There's one in Nashawita that's all grass as well. Some of the systems aren't maintained that well. So we just need to find out, just look into a little bit of the history of the system. That's all.
All right.
All I wanted to,
Commissioner?
if I could just add one thing to that for clarification. I don't know the answer either. I suspect though in the 90s, that was prior to us having mitigation requirements. And, you know, I don't know that the intent then was, well, we're going to do this as a grass driveway as a means of not avoiding or not needing mitigation. I think it was more at a time where these were just the technology that they were proposing to just demonstrate the driveway was pervious, because pervious driveways are better than paved driveways. But
And that's fine, Mike. This would just like the time to look into when the system went in. That's all.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, Maury.
I just had 2 questions. Is it seasonal water line, Mike? Because you don't show where I don't think it's on there. Is it where it's coming from?
Oh.
So it just has to be a seasonal water line. You don't have a 4-foot dig.
Yeah, I will show it on the plan too.
And the lighting will be downward lighting.
Absolutely, in accordance with your regulation on the foot candles.
Yep. And then I would like to make a comment a little bit on the concrete grass paver things. One of the problems that I've seen in the past is that even the grass people, you know, they fertilize it, they let it grow over. So I think this is still better than the Belgrade pavers that everybody says is impervious because they've got a 1/16 of an inch crack around them. At least this has gravel. It is relatively pervious compared to, you know, asphalt or anything else. And I think it's good that we do look into this. Thank you.
And then they go and put poly sand in those 16-inch joints and it's all but mortared at that point.
Yeah, the pervious pavers are not pervious. I mean,
No.
I think those definitely need mitigation, but when they're full of gravel and sand underneath, and it's actually better because people don't usually treat them with chemicals or, you know, things like that.
All right, Pat,
No comments, thank you.
Peter,
No questions.
Steve.
Agree with Maury's point on the driveways. I thought about that as well, and I think the gravel with the gaps provides a reasonable amount of drainage. I'm sure there's examples where it isn't working as well, but I think it's a much better tool for us.
And and if the board wants to agree with that, that's fine, but I think we have to have along, and it's not with this project, or like you said, Mr. Chairman, Mike's, you know, nobody's fault or the client, but I think it's a broader discussion the board has to have. So when you have a system like this, do you allow them to use this as impervious coverage and then put a larger house on it? That's what the staff faces when we're looking at something like this. So I think that's a discussion this board needs to have, and we have to be really careful what we're what we're allowing, you know, as impervious coverage. So just keep that in mind, guys. Topic for another day.
Yeah, okay. Betsy,
Questions or comments?
Courtney?
No comments specific to this other than I agree. We need to have a discussion about this whole issue of what you do with driveways and what is pervious and what is impervious.
Right.
You know, be honest with you, I don't have a heart attack out of dense grade. If I find that I have a lovely lawn that's grown up out of dense grade that I have to mow, and I don't, if it was as impervious as you guys all suggest, I'd use it as a roofing material as opposed to asphalt shingles because it'd be a lot cheaper, but I'm not sure I trust it. Anyway, that's my comment.
All righty. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Chicken. All right. Dan, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat. Mike, how long are you gonna need to revise that plan?
Oh, well, I only need a week. I have to submit it a week prior to your next hearing, and I think on my calendar at least says you're not meeting in 2 weeks. Is that right?
I like your calendar, Mike. Yes, we're not meeting in 2 weeks.
So I can't get it to you, and unless you allow me to submit it prior to you voting on the order, I would need to continue it beyond that.
No, I'd like to see it above that mark because I don't know. Do you anticipate running into any design issues with the dock going up another foot like that?
No.
No. Well, I see one thing on our agenda for the 27th that I pretty much know we're probably not going to get to. So 27th it is, Mike?
If that's what it needs to be, that's
Yeah,
what I'll
that's
take.
what it needs to be. Sorry about that, Mike.
No problem.
But just to say, we're pretty specific about what we're looking for the.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hopefully it's a formality.
Yeah, we're just going to look
Exactly.
into it. Yeah, that system went in and I just looked at our pictures from 20 and it was there the last time we looked at this thing. So we can have a discussion with Mike on that. And then he just needs to comply with the Division of Marine Fisheries comments.
Perfect. Simple. Easy enough for me. All right.
At the request of the applicant, we'll continue this to April 27th.
For a second.
We have a motion and a second to continue this till 4:27. There's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
At night.
It is unanimous. We've continued this till 4:27. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Mike.
Happy 40th birthday, Courtney.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad I got this far.
I left
I'm not
another
sure
bag
other
of
people
coal on
left
your,
this
I left
far.
another bag of coal on your porch. Have a good
Mike,
night.
done for the night, right?
Thank you, Mike.
I am.
Good night, Mike.
Good night.
All right, next up. Secondarian 11 Tonsett Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a deck and a portion of the existing garage to construct 2 additions and a porch, to upgrade the on-site septic system, to install mitigation plantings and all associated landscaping, grading, utilities. And I always trip over this word, appurtenances. It's got to be a shorter word for that.
Appurtenances.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Say it fast and then
have
nobody notices.
promoted Zach Bazinski of Bracken Engineering up to present his project.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Zach Basinski, professional engineer, Bracken Engineering. Here this evening on behalf of the applicants. As mentioned, project site is 11 Tonsett. Existing developed single-family house lot. Existing house was built back in 1928. This is a pre-firm house. Resource areas on and near the lot are Buzzards Bay, Coastal Beach, a coastal bank, and then land subject to coastal storm flowage. This is a VE 19 zone with an AE just off the locus. So as for the proposed project, Mr. Ascadari and his wife are looking to raise or demo a portion of an existing garage on the back side of the house here, and then install 2 lateral additions and infill on the existing structure. These are not substantial improvements, therefore it can be built laterally onto the existing structure. The overall net structure area for the project is negative 10 square feet on the plan. This was a comment that came out of staff reports, which we've addressed on the plan. The additions we felt were adequate for this project. They're on the landward side of the existing structures, therefore not affecting any floodwaters or deflecting any floodwaters to any of the abutting properties. There is a small covered entry to be placed on the front of the house right here. This was proposed at 48 feet. The existing structure is 47.7 feet, so not getting any closer. Also being built over a previously approved patio area on the lot. Proposed project does increase impervious coverage within the zone A's and zone B's. We do have a mitigation breakdown on the plan. Based on that, we're looking at required 480 square feet, and we're proposing just over 500 square feet in 2 areas on the planting. One here on this north and west side shown in green, and then another 117 square feet shown on the back side here. We have been working with Alyssa, did receive some staff comments. This was a previous mitigation area that was planted on the property. It's been brought to our attention that the owners have been trimming this down. So we've added a new note to that this is supposed to be maintained at a minimum 3-foot height on this. Also, if there's any existing ornamentals, those would be removed from this area and replanted with native vegetation on that. Secondly, this project was supposed to be in front of the commission at a previous hearing. It was continued. It was brought to our attention that there was some off-site clearing that was done on the property. We have since updated the plan to restore this area. So there'd be additional 630 square feet of mitigation planting just off the locus on this area. We'd also include 4 cedar trees within this planting area. Proposed project, we believe, meets all the performance standards from a flood zone and under the local bylaw. And with that, we'll turn it back over to the commission.
Thank you. For the record, I think the quorum, this wasn't previously open, so the quorum's everyone.
Correct.
Is that accurate, Beth? Okay. All right. Jen, you're up.
Well, Zach talked really fast. So I know that there was a plan that came in yesterday, Zach, to address staff reports. And I think you heard, if you were listening, you might not have. We said earlier, we try to get the staff reports to you guys early. Sometimes it's only a day or so just because we're slammed. It really doesn't mean you have to address them right before the hearing because we're not going to have a chance to review your plans beforehand. They're basically used as a guide for the commission and talking points and pointing out, various things in their regulations. Again, I know you guys like to do one and done, get out of here. But sometimes we just don't have the time to look at a revised plan the day of. Although we really appreciate you guys trying to address that. So I don't know, Alyssa, if you had a time to look at this plan or have any comments, I'm going to let you take this one. I only had one thing, and I saw it on your old plan. It just caught my eye. Zach, those cedar trees that you're putting in, what are they for?
There was some additional woody species, but we thought it would be best to rectify that area with that or restore that area with the trees.
Okay, because that is on town property.
It's just off the locust. There was some woody species in there before, so.
Yeah. Okay. I know there was woody species in there before, but were there trees?
I'll have to go back. I believe there were one.
Okay.
He cleared the whole area out, so.
Okay. All right. So then the trees should go back. Okay. I'm just, Alyssa, do you have any other comments? I know Alyssa had a few comments. Okay.
Just to clarify, we do have photos of the area prior to its clearing. There were some small cedars in there. So the point was to restore what was being removed. If the commission has any concerns with that, I'm sure they could just put in some shrubs. But I think there was 4 kind of very small cedar trees. Not sure if they really blossomed over the years due to the harsh weather. I'm not sure why if they were young or if they were just small. But that's what was there. And I can attach those photos. Actually, I think, yeah, they're in the original comments of the staff report. You can see what was there before.
Okay.
In that new plan that was submitted, it was just addressing that there is a net decrease in square footage in the velocity zone by 10 square feet. And the other item noted was that it was in reference to the existing plantings on site that were being cut. To clarify, I did find those plantings as a requirement in a 2003 order of conditions. They were not specified as mitigation, just required. I'm not sure if there's a height requirement back then. The mitigation plantings being installed, those will need to be allowed to grow to their full and mature form past 3 feet. It isn't unheard of for, if these mitigation does get too large, overgrown, the homeowners could file an RDA in the future to bring them down to like a 5-foot height. But they will need to be allowed to grow. Talking to Zach earlier, I think he addressed my other comments. There is a portion of fence newly added on the property. It is in the velocity zone. So that is, look at my plan.
I can show my screen and just point that out.
Yeah, sure. I think that's by the southern property line. That fence was added. Yeah.
We had a stockade fence that was installed right here over the last year. So again, I mean, the homeowner, I mean, if it can be maintained, they'd request to maintain it. Again, very close to the abutting property. So I do have a picture of it here. Of that section of fence. Again, if it can be maintained, again, this is a fence that's parallel to the house, is perpendicular to the wave action that would come in. We don't see it as a detriment from a flood zone standpoint as it's running parallel with the wave action that would come off of the bank. And again, this is privacy from the neighbor that was directly next door. But if the commission feels that it needs to come out, we'll gladly take it out. Leave that to the commission.
And those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. All right, commissioner comments. Pat?
This moved so quickly and I was of the misbelief that I was not part of the quorum, so I wasn't trying to listen to everything. But did I hear you say that there are trees that you're proposing to install on town property?
Well, they're in the road layout, Pat.
Road, no?
It's, I'm not going to go deeply into it, but if it's not their property, I'm not so sure they should be installing trees there. Are these trees being proposed as mitigation for other activities? Nope. Okay.
No, they're being proposed because that area had been cleared. And there was a earlier discussion about, and if you look at the last page, Alyssa said of the staff report, this third page of the staff report, you can see what used to be there. There were small cedars in the road layout. Beyond, between the wall and the pavement, it's the road layout, but it's not improved. And the applicant had cleared that out, and we're just having them reestablish that shrub layer that was between the pavement and the wall. That's within the road layout that pre-existed.
Okay, I have no further questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
No questions.
Betsy?
No questions. Thanks.
Courtney?
Pat is addressing the same concern I have in terms of, who owns Santuit Road and do they need to provide permission to do work there?
Okay. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Maury?
I just had two. The area that is in question about on the town property, that was all vegetated. So I think they're just trying to replace the vegetation that was there. And putting bayberry in is probably a good choice because basically it's a migrating dune. So, it would be helpful to have something hold it there as it races down the road. The second thing is this, I'm not really that pleased with the little teeny narrow one shrub strip of mitigation. I would prefer to see it closest to the resource, which would be Buzzards Bay and not along the road, along Santuit, so that at least it has some sort of value for wildlife, or just that it's a cluster instead of just a little ribbon of planting along that edge. And I totally, you know how I feel about fences and bee zones, so I will bring that up, that we don't allow them. Thank you.
Melissa?
I just looked on GIS and they call Santuit a private road, if that changes anything.
They call us into it what?
Private road, it's not a town.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so what are we looking at?
I think you can deliberate over the fence. Maury, you want to see a revision in the plan and have the instead of the ribbon of one around like that, you prefer to see that just kind of maybe more clumped in that corner?
Yeah, just so it's, I mean, Buzzards Bay is what we're trying to pretty much protect, not Santuit Road. And I don't know, I just think that it's just going to be literally one shrub line. It's sort of just a little Macarena line going along.
Edge.
Yeah, it's like, exactly.
Zach?
I just share my screen for a second, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Thank you. So is it instead of having the mitigation planting
You're not
on
sharing yet?
Yep.
Oh, there you
So
go.
instead of having the planting on Santuit, bringing it down here and bumping this out along the front here?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, if that could be conditioned as part of a condition, we can gladly bring all this and put this right in here and give you the equivalent area of the 390 square feet in that area there.
I mean, I'm just one vote, but it's just.
Is that something we can condition, Jen, or would we need a revised plan for
I mean, we can condition it and have a revised plan that the shrubs are clumped in the corner of that lot. That's fine. Betsy has a question.
Betsy?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, back up what Maury said. We've made people take fences in the velocity zone out before. They could have it until it reached the velocity zone, and then the rest had to be taken out. So that's been our policy.
And we're fine if that's a condition to remove that, if that needs to be. Yep.
And then maybe they'd like to plant some beautiful native shrubs along there.
Cedars.
Cedars.
There you go.
Privacy shrubs.
I might be back with that.
All right, what are we looking at?
I'm fine if you want to close it and we can condition clump, for lack of a better term, a grouping. Let's put grouping the vegetation in that corner. Removing the fence, and that all can be conditioned, and then we can work with Zach if his clients want to add some additional privacy screening with some larger cedars or something. We can work with the applicant on that.
Right, then
I mean, we can even condition it.
All right, I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Harlow Hawks.
Second, Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Maury.
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Did we check for any public comment?
I did,
Walsh,
and there was none.
Walsh, aye.
Thank you to my co-chair, Steve. It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bazinski.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Courtney, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Take care.
Night, Zach.
Good thing you weren't trying to keep that secret, Courtney.
I know it.
All right, next up,
You're only 82 once.
You look
next
great,
up is-
Courtney.
All right. Next up is 267 Clinton Ave, which has been continued out previously. Therefore, next up is Jason Sanatellis, 285 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with a porch and deck to install mitigation plantings and to upgrade the existing septic system. Jen?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I have promoted George Collins up to present the next two projects.
All right, before you start, George, for the record, the quorum does not include Kevin. All right, Mr. Collins, you're up, sir.
Right. Good evening, George Collins, representing Jason Sanatellis. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Here we go. Last week when we met, there was a discussion about the fact that about the nearest primary structure to the resource area. We were calling it the patio here. That was the raised patio, the block patio with a retaining wall. It was the consensus of the commission that that is not part of the primary structure. So what we did is we reevaluated everything, and the closest structure, including the existing deck, is 47 feet off the coastal bank. And what we did is we reduced the width of the deck from 10 feet to 8 feet, and we moved the deck 2 feet to the north in order to achieve the same 47-foot dimension off of the coastal bank. So I believe that was the last item that we were trying to iron out. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or staff may have.
Thank you, sir. You can stop sharing.
Oops.
Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we met with George. Was it last Friday, George, to go over these
Yes.
revisions?
Yeah.
And yep, the closest point to that house was 47, so he's maintaining that from the deck. So I think that's fine.
Perfect. All right. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. I don't know where I left off. Peter, we'll start with you.
No questions. I think that's a good thing that George is working with the administrative staff.
Steve?
Thank you. No questions.
Okay. Betsy?
No questions. Thanks for working out the revision.
Courtney?
No questions.
Okay. Maury?
No questions, thank you.
Pat?
No questions, thanks.
Okay. So this is good. This is the way continuance should go when it's just a missing piece or a minor adjustment. So, all right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
I make a
Sure.
motion.
I'll make a Go on, Maury.
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement, Harlow Hawks.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you very much for everybody's guidance and patience.
Hey, George.
Next up, Paul Doucette, 334 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconfigure the existing driveway, to remove an existing shed, to construct a new shed, and to upgrade the existing septic system. And again, the quorum does not include Kevin. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We met with George on Friday. I don't think there's any, George, you're just putting in the same plan, correct?
That's correct.
And we just couldn't really find a place that was going to work for the shed. We spoke with Jonathan, the zoning compliance agent, and determined what the front yard was, and worked with his sketch, and George is here to address the board.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, so essentially, Jen was nice enough to push this right up to the zoning compliance officer, just to get some clarification on where the shed can physically go to meet zoning. The oddity of the whole thing is they would allow the shed, they hold the trajectory of the front of the house. So this trajectory, so the trajectory would go out in that direction and in this direction. So the proposed shed, where I have it proposed, does meet zoning, but it falls within the 25-foot buffer to the V zone. So that's sort of the point of contention at this point. And the reason why Mr. and Mrs. Doucette do not want to put the shed in this location is they have neighbors that they've known for a long time that live across the street, and they don't want to put the shed there and block the view that they have at this point. So that they don't want to upset their neighbors. So I know that isn't necessarily something that the commission might think is as a priority, but it would impede the public good, in my opinion. If you could promote Mr. and Mrs. Doucette into the meeting, I believe they're sitting, they're part of the, I would just like them to possibly, if there's something that, I do have a list of things that I'd like to go over, the hardships and public good items. And if possible, if they felt like they wanted to add anything to the conversation afterwards, I would look if they could participate in the meeting. But the hardships that I would, and so basically, again, so the proposed shed
George?
location. Yep, I'm sorry.
George, I can't promote your clients up until you stop sharing. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Sorry about that. And again, this is Paul and Marcella. I'm sorry. Milena Doucette.
The Doucettes are now in, they have been promoted to panelists. Mr. and Mrs. Doucette, you do need to turn your camera on and unmute your mic if you would like to address the board. Thank you. I see that you're unmuted.
Yeah, can you see
Oh.
us yet?
Well, we're getting there. Hang on.
Oh, I see the camera. Okay. Oh, hi.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
so,
George, you can share your screen again.
okay, thank you.
Do you want us to chime in right now?
Actually, why don't I go, I'm gonna go over a few items.
Okay.
And then, we can maybe see what the feedback is from the commission and then take it from there. So there's just some, again, the issue here is we're out of the velocity zone, but we're within the 25-foot buffer to the velocity zone. And a few things I just want to point out that, the property was subdivided, the house was constructed in 1948 at a unique angle. If the house was parallel and perpendicular to the street, we could put the shed right in this location, meet zoning, get outside the 25-foot buffer to the V zone. So this is something that, the one logistical obstacle here is the house was built in 1948, and then all the regulations and zoning and conservation regulations happened after the house was built. Mr. and Mrs. Doucette, they're retired. Mr. Doucette is disabled. He's on a fixed income. They do live in this house year round. This is not a vacation home. Because of Mr. Doucette's disabilities, he can't store. The only option if he doesn't have a shed would be to store his lawnmower outside, or he would have to bring it in and out of his basement through the bulkhead, which is not a physical option. In his particular case, he's had 6 back surgeries, and he's anticipating the need for a handicap access at some point. So they personally have some hardships here that I would like the commission to take into consideration. They may or may not be able to be taken into consideration, but we'd just like to bring these items to your attention. I apologize, I'm just making sure I'm going through my list. And then the items from the public good perspective, where we're proposing to put the shed, there's no tree removal. We were very careful to figure out a spot where the shed could go without tree removal. If we went forward in this area to get it out of the V zone, we would have to remove some trees and we would not meet zoning. We are proposing a new septic system. So just overall for the project, the full application, we are proposing something that's for the public good. We are reducing the impervious area on the project by the proposed driveway and pavement is smaller than what is there now. And then, as I mentioned, from a public good perspective, we don't want to put the shed in this location because we think that would adversely impact the neighborhood and would not be in the best interest for the public good. And then the other thing is they put their trash barrels and recycling in the shed. So part of their concern is if they don't have a shed, they won't be able to. They're concerned about with the high winds right on the water that they would have issues containing, stopping their trash barrels from blowing over. So it's just one of these things from a practical standpoint. This is their primary home. They really need a shed in order to maintain the property and have some sort of reasonable lifestyle. Basically we're just respectfully requesting that the commission consider some of these items from a hardship and public good perspective and consider approving the application as proposed.
Thank you, George. You can stop sharing.
All right, Jen, any comments, questions?
There's no public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, no, I was asking if you had anything.
Oh, no, Mr. Chairman. I think the staff had all our comments last week. I think the only outstanding issue was, the board will just have to deliberate about the shed.
Yep.
We tried to make it work. Unfortunately, Jonathan's interpretation of the zoning bylaw, as George said, is on that. George, what did you say? The trajectory of that front of the house?
Yeah, the face of the house.
Yeah, the face of the house.
And again, if the house was parallel and perpendicular to the property line, and again, the house was built in 1948, so
Yeah.
if the house was parallel and perpendicular to the property line, we would have been able to slide the house further towards the street, meet zoning, and get it out of the V zone, so.
Ms. Doucette?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, there's no doorway to our home on the front side. Our door is facing our neighbor on the side. And I mean, Betsy has been to my house, so she can, she's been there. Where the shed's being proposed, or where it's being sort of forced to go, is exactly in the front yard, right next to the street, really, right by our front door and right by our lamppost. So I understand the zoning board's concern about sheds in the front yard, but paradoxically, that's exactly where the shed would be. And, when people walk by our house, people have said to me, you have such a pretty view. It's pretty from the street. And the shed would be literally right in the middle of that. So it really is a difficult situation, because I can see that our lot really just doesn't allow for a spot that would meet everyone's requirements. And we really need a shed. Our house is very small and we have issues, storing stuff. We already have things on the side of the house, and it's not great. We would like to be able to put our things away properly somewhere.
All right, thank you. Commissioner comments, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sympathize with the homeowners, and I'm confused. I took a look at the site and I agree with the homeowners' discussion of this. I guess I don't have as much problem with the shed, as long as we can figure out how to do this where it is proposed on the plan.
Betsy? Betsy, you there?
Yeah, I have no comments right now, Jamie. Thanks.
All right, Courtney?
Yeah, this is one of these unfortunate situations where when you get a regulation that's sort of designed for one size fits all, now they're in a situation where their size doesn't fit. And that's a sad issue. I'm sorry the Zoning and Board of Appeals doesn't look at this as a hardship case. I'm very sympathetic given their situation with the conundrum they're in, and so I hope we can work with them.
Just a clarification on that, Courtney, it wasn't the Zoning Board of Appeals. We received guidance from the zoning compliance officer. So the Zoning Board of Appeals hasn't made any ruling on this.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I understand the regulation because it is a one size fits all. And unfortunately, lots were not laid out and houses weren't laid out uniformly to, have situations like this taken into account.
Right. Jen, there'd be nothing that would preclude them from special permit, correct?
What was that,
dear?
Mr. Chairman?
Is there anything that would preclude them from going to the ZBA for a special permit?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Maury?
I don't know how the ZBA would rule, but
I think they're trying to accommodate everybody in the neighborhood, which is very rare. Most people don't care about what other people see. They're usually selfish and only want to have their view. If the shed was a little smaller, I mean, it's almost 200 square feet. And in a lot of ways, you know, putting the stuff in the shed during storms and things is far more secure than it blowing around the yard. And those houses, you know, they're very small compared to most everything else we see. If we can figure out a way to accommodate this, because it is a very unique situation. Thank you.
Pat?
I sympathize with the landowners, but I have no comments or questions. Thank you.
Okay. Peter?
I agree with Maury's comment. Things should be able to be worked out, but I'm not sure how.
All right. And that's where we are. All right. Jen, now is there anything in the public chat function?
no, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at aerials right now, trying to figure this out.
Okay. All right. What's your pleasure?
I'm sorry, wait a second.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if there's any place other. I think the board's just going to have to deliberate, Mr. Chairman. I think that's where we are.
No, I agree. I'm just looking for a motion.
And I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement, Harlow Hawks.
Thank you.
Bird second. And I would just encourage the applicants to perhaps explore some of this with the zoning board of appeals as well.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to close the hearing. If there's no other comments, questions? All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time.
You.
Night.
Good night. Thank you.
All right, next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order. Leonard Bassett Jr. and Patricia Bassett, trustees, 465 Courier Road, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of trees within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting the Bassett's up, and I am promoting Mike Frazier from Traverse Construction up as well. Although, oh, there they come. And Alyssa is going to kind of recap to the board where we are with this one.
Okay. Alyssa?
Thank you, yes. So since the last time we were here.
Alyssa, hold that thought. Mr. Bassett, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you have a camera?
Yeah. There we go.
Oh, hello, Glenn.
Hi.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, go on, Alyssa.
Alyssa?
Sorry about that.
No worries, thank you. So since our last hearing, we were able to meet with Mr. Jeff Bassett, his mother, and Mr. Frazier on the property to kind of go through the removal of the trees that have occurred over the past winter. Mr. Frazier explained that many of the trees were fallen or uprooted and damaged. And this was, he also provided us with some photos, as well as Glenn, he provided us with a number of photos as well as the damage that has occurred. And so I've summarized that in the staff report. Through the photos and discussions, we accounted for 11 trees that were removed from the property. 4 of which were deemed unhealthy by Travers Landscape Construction, so those are removed as well. Let me see here. Yes, Mr. Fraser explained that there were some state emergency protocols put in place when I think this was one of the major winter storms or blizzards. So the trees were removed based on those emergency protocols. Staff does feel that there should have been some notice or just after the fact permit for these removals, since the vast majority of biomass was removed from the property. Since it was damaged and posing a hazard, we would have permitted that anyway, but we would have preferred to have been a part of the process, as we think some restoration of the property is in order. Looking at the photos, looking at areas of the property, speaking with Mark, and we've sort of come up with an idea for a restoration plan. We were interested in seeing around 7 trees restored on the property, most of which on the western side of the property, but perhaps 1 also on the eastern side, as most of the biomass was removed from the western side. That area could also benefit from a shrub layer, in our opinion. And I did get in touch with Glenn and his family, and I believe they're interested in restoring the property as well. And I believe they are working with Fraser on coming up with some potential plant species for restoration. The Bassett's are in the process of acquiring the survey. As we all know, everyone's a little backed up, so that'll be coming in the next few months, I am assuming. And I believe that's where we left it, unless Jen has anything else to add.
No, I think that pretty much covered it. I think that we can come up with a nice restoration plan that's going to restore, as Alyssa said, the biomass on the property, and also give the Bassett's a nice screen from the association beach to the west.
All right. Mr. Bassett or Mr. Travers, you have anything to add?
Well, I guess I'll start. First of all, as my grandfather would say, pictures are 1,000 words. Now, I'm not sure if this body has had a chance to view those pictures. Have you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in viewing the pictures during that storm, that there was a state of emergency, because we get something over our computer when it comes to snow and ice, or any type of hurricanes or nor'easters in the area. I would have been more than glad to call Falmouth Conservation Department, but I don't think that was in the cards due to the conditions of the lines, electrical outages and such. And we did try to make some contact, but there was no getting through. We did get an answering machine, but I don't even know what happened after that. So that's neither here or there. Courier Road was unpassable. We were acting as bird dogs to make sure that the power lines were either on or off, because the Eversource was overwhelmed at the time. When I got the emergency call to go down Mrs. Bassett's house, there were, from my pictures that I have here, 4 trees on the house, 1 on the electrical lines, 3 on the neighbor's house, and all these trees were uprooted. And the pictures show that. There was also 1 leaning over the boat, and 1 had already gone and crashed through the back of the house onto the deck, taking out some of the chimney and laying on the solar panels. And they couldn't even get out their front door, neither their back door. They would have had to go out their cellar way. So that's where we took action to at least get them out of the house, or at least entry out of both sides of the house. The next day, we started the operation of craning off trees off the house and off the neighbor's yard, or not the neighbor's yard, the neighbor's roof line also. I really don't, I mean, I understand you want mitigation done and the Bassett's are in agreement with that on the side of the shed area where the boat and parking is. But I think going in to do mitigation on the other side of the house there was one large tree that fell on their neighbor's yard into their house, actually, and that had to be craned off the house. So I don't understand why there would need to be mitigation on the east side. I understand that when we went back on the storm in February, I think it was February with the other nor'easter, another tree had come down over the shed and it was laying just like the other pictures that are in there. There were 2 other trees that were broken halfway up and there was 3 smaller black pines left. They were smaller. So yes, we did take those out. If the mitigation has to be for that area, the Bassett's are in agreement with that. And they have no problem doing that. But I think it should be directed to that area in question. And I do have a formula of, either Eastern Red Atlantic cedars in there with maybe some cherry laurel, something that would give them a little bit of separation in front of where that fence is that the association has there. But this would also involve the stump removal of the smaller caliber black pines. The other larger stumps that are there were from the trees that were taken down during the prior storm. And a lot of times with other trees that were leaning towards the house, as soon as you cut the tree, sometimes the tree will end up standing back up and it looks like the tree was never leaning. This is only because, I've had over 35 years of experience as a tree arborist in, high degree tree removal from Boston to Cape Cod. So I do have a lot of experience in this business. So I guess where we're at is that, the mitigation for that area where the fence is, the Bassett's are in agreement with. I can make up hopefully an acceptable planting schedule for that area. But in order to do that, there will be just some disturbing of the topography by the removing of the stumps in question. Also, when the tree came down, it did move the shed a little bit. So that's going to have to be re-leveled in that area. And it probably have to put aggregate or stone back in that storage area where they have their boat. So again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I just want you to know the impact of that small area. And like I said, the pictures tell the whole story. That's it.
Mr. Bassett?
Hi. Yeah, I mean, we're in agreement with what Mike just said. Basically, we want to restore it. However, the experts say is best, basically.
All right, Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think our comments are going to stand. So, not every tree on that lot came down in a storm. There were some that were removed. We got a call, I forget, it was well after the storm, from Marine Environmental Services alerting us to the tree work. And I think, I can't remember off the top of my head when Mark went out. But I think we do want to see some trees put back on that west area. This area is very sensitive. It is within Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program. There are a lot of rare coastal plain pond shore plants along that shoreline. So whatever done out there does need to be done carefully and in consultation with Natural Heritage. So Natural Heritage will need to be alerted to any restoration in this area. So I think the board needs to decide whether we're going to require a notice of intent where we can have natural heritage's input on the restoration, because it is within their rare species polygon, or if the board would like to see this under a straight enforcement order.
All right. Commissioner comments, Betsy.
I just noticed my screen lit up before I said anything. But anyway, I don't have any comments.
Courtney?
I don't have any comments. I mean, this is except that it is a kind of a tough situation when you get a storm like this. A lot of times you have to act on emergency use, but it's unfortunate there wasn't better communication.
Yeah, and I think that's the point that really needs to be emphasized, is not so much the trees came down in a storm. I mean, we've allowed administrative or RDAs for trees, you know, in the past. It's more about, like you said, the communication. Kevin?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Maury? Maury, you have anything?
Sorry, I'm muted. No comments, thank you.
Okay. Pat?
No comments, thanks.
Peter?
No comments. Thank you.
Steve?
No comments, thank you.
All right, so I think procedurally, we want to issue an enforcement order anyway, correct? And then the enforcement order would either just state what we want or state that it needs to become a notice.
Correct.
Am I saying that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And if the board wants some time to think about it and you want to deliberate it and vote on it at your next meeting, you've done that as well too.
Okay.
May
All
I
right,
interject? May I interject one thing?
Sure.
All right, I think that all the members are from Falmouth. I think that if they went out there and maybe took it right off the road there and they saw exactly the situation, and then look to see about the environmental impact of the heritage, I think you're going to find out that this is a very, very small area. This isn't what I compare to half the big projects I've done in Falmouth in the past. And I'm not saying that to be cocky. I'm saying it that this was a small grove, and when a Marine, you know, somebody from Marine is basically calling me a liar, it does put the hair up in the back of my neck. We didn't go out there seeking to cut down viable trees. I showed Melissa and Jennifer how the wind came in, because it severed off the oak trees right next to it, halfway up. And those trees we didn't touch because we knew they were within the association area in the impact zone. We only took down what the threats were that were leaning. There were 3 or 4 smaller trees. I am not going to deny that. And they were all black pines. We did take those down because Mrs. Bassett did ask if we could take them down. We said, sure, because they were leaning in that direction due to the wind shear. And she is in agreement to put in some type of screening there and mitigate that area. I would not like to see her have to go through a whole notice of intent. It's extremely expensive. They are elderly. I mean, she already got out of the hospital last week after having a severe panic attack over stress on this. And I'm not trying to represent them and put them in a bad light. But again, this was not done out of neglect or ignorance or just them going off half-cocked to do this. This was a necessity at the time. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to close it, take it under advisement, Harlow Hawks.
Bird second.
Looking for Jen.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
that the motion we're looking for?
Or
If you want to have a week to deliberate on and decide what you would like to do, or you can decide right now.
Okay.
I mean, I can go out and look at the shoreline. The coastal plain contour plants are only going to be near the shoreline. They're in that water band on the sand that comes up and down. They're not going to be up in the yard. So depending on where we decide to, site the plants, maybe we can have one more site visit with the Bassets and with Mr. Frazier to kind of discuss the area that can be restored, because the first time we went out, we were kind of, trying to assess what trees were taken down and everything else. I think it would be helpful to have an additional, site visit, have Alyssa and I go out there, kind of meet with them, formulate a plan, and we can come back and maybe recommend something to the board. So maybe keep this open until next week and give us a chance to get out there. And then we can better assess. I wouldn't have too much heartburn if they, the restoration stayed away from the shoreline. I just don't know how natural heritage is going to feel about that. But that's something I can explore by next Wednesday.
Okay, so then we don't want to close the hearing. We really want to continue it, correct?
Yeah, I think maybe a continuance, and it'll give us a chance to work further with the Bassets. I know they want to get moving on this. They've been very responsive to the staff. So I think we can move this forward. We just need a little bit more, just need to go out there one more time before I just write something up and then everybody starts arguing. I think we'd rather just speak to them one more time out in the field, if that's agreeable to you, Mr. Bassett.
Yes.
Your property or your family's property, and then we can report back to the commission next week.
Then I withdraw my motion to close the hearing.
I'll withdraw my second.
And I'll make a motion to continue till 4/13/22.
Bird second.
All right, Pat, you have something?
Yeah, I thought earlier there was a comment made that they're having a survey done. Don't we need to have a survey before we can do a thoughtful enforcement order?
We have issued enforcement orders requiring a survey in the past, Pat. I think it's something we can incorporate in. They're doing the survey for other reasons as well. There's a slight dock issue out there we're working through right now. So we have required a survey in the past, mainly to determine where property boundaries are. I'm pretty sure the property boundary, looking at the old plan for the association, is where that fence, that post and rail fence is. So I think we can have a pretty good idea of what to put back there and move this forward.
My question went more to describing what needs to be done under the enforcement order. If you don't have a plan and you're not locating where the trees need to go, isn't that a problem? Question.
No, it could be. Mr. Bassett, do you know when your survey is going to be done? And who have you retained to do that survey?
We're still waiting on a couple quotes. We've only received one quote back. And we reached out right after our meeting with you. So it's been very hard to get quotes from folks, but we did get one from Mike from Falmouth Engineering.
Okay.
So, he's the front runner. He's the only runner right now, but.
They are very busy right now. I understand the need, and I always will recommend multiple, getting multiple quotes before deciding on someone. But in this case, you might, consider just, going with who's been responsive to you so far. Because I don't know how responsive, they're all busy right now.
Right.
Betsy?
So I have a question. Is this, Jen, are you comfortable that this area is stabilized? Because if we get some big rains, I mean, the problem with these kinds of rare plants, they're in that sand layer, but if there's a big rain and there's a lot of, sediment that washes, sediment and mud that washes down, that's just going to kill them.
Betsy, the whole understory there was no understory prior, so I don't think the removal of the trees is going to destabilize the area any more than it already was with the lacking of that shrub layer. I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till next week. And then if we can, hopefully we'll have enough information. And if not, we'll go further. So that's the motion on the table at the moment. Betsy?
Jamie, give me 1 second. Mr. Fraser, Mr. Bassett, I'm sorry, Jamie, real quick. If you want to contact our office tomorrow, maybe we can meet you out there on Friday and get this kind of at least discussion points down. If that's possible.
No, that'll be fine. I'd like to make a couple of calls for Jeff maybe, or Glenn. I can get maybe GAF out there. They owe me a few favors.
Okay.
Been out of the business for a while of doing engineering. I'm getting too old for it. So
nope, not a problem. We'll just keep working through this. I'm sure we can get it settled.
We can superimpose something on a survey. All right. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 4/13. Thank you, Mr. Bassett. Thank you, Mr. Travers.
Thank you.
Thank you. No one wished me a happy birthday.
Open mic. Careful. All right. Next up, vote order of conditions. Beverly A. Luckraft, trustee. Beverly A. Luckraft, 1 trust, 32 Ponce Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. Kevin, you're not on the quorum. You're not on the quorum on any of these, so.
Kevin, why don't you sign off? We won't think you're crass at all. You have a nice night, sir.
I am
Thank
so
you very
offended.
much.
Hi, Kevin.
Good night.
Hey, Kevin.
Good night, Kevin.
Can't believe he's leaving.
I know.
Don't make him feel bad, Steve.
That's
No, don't worry. he
Nice one,
won't.
Steve.
Oh,
Okay, hang on. What's this? 32 Ponce?
carport.
Oh yeah, he fixed all the mitigation, didn't he? And then he showed, Tom showed us a series of photos about, he gave us a revised plan, and then he showed us a series of photos about where he was putting them and how he thought they would be okay. And that he's keeping that stand of sheep laurel. Am I remembering the right one? I am.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope.
Pretty basic. Maury?
Yeah, we just have to cite the revised plan.
Got it.
Anything to add, Alyssa?
I don't.
Okay.
Maury?
No, I had no comments. I thought that he had a good idea.
Anybody have anything particularly you want to see in there? All right. Muted. Still muted. That's a use sign language.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
Oh, man. All right. We have a motion and a second issue in order of conditions as discussed. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Robert and Carol Wayland and Robert Armstrong, east end of Ferry Road, Falmouth, Mass. This is that stairway.
This is the staircase. So they put in the revised plan. I think, staff doesn't have any problem with the staircase itself. It is in the velocity zone, but it wouldn't be the first access to the water we've permitted in a velocity zone like this. There does need to be a finding about that osprey pole, and that they should contact the property owner and have them relocate that pole. It'll be very disturbing to the birds if they construct the staircase right there and there's constant public access down there or association access down there.
But the pole should be moved at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because like right now they're nesting, right?
Yeah, can't move it now, and we can't require it to be moved, but we can encourage them to reach out to the appropriate property owner and have them have the discussion about moving the pole. They did supply all the information about their association that they're going to create.
Monitoring reports.
Yep, and monitoring reports. I think the only outstanding issue, or the only issue that the board needs to discuss, is the storage of the two dinghy storage areas at the end of the stairway.
Let's see.
So I didn't quite get, what I didn't get about this project is how you're going to have an association and just have two dinghies. But it was clarified in the last hearing that these two dinghies belong to two particular people. So basically this is, if we permit the storage of that, it's the storage for just two particular people. And to me, that's like having a dock in a velocity zone.
But when we permit docks, we allow only one boat, correct?
Correct.
In this case, playing devil's advocate, why can't we just limit it to two dinghies regardless of ownership? And I'll just go further and say I don't really have a problem with the boat storage because it's better than having it on the salt marsh. And if we don't allow the boat storage, they're going to be stored anyway, somewhere.
I think there are going to be more than two boats stored there.
But we're only allowing what
the
I'm trying to offer.
The concern that the staff had was the damage to the marsh. The marsh has come back since the former dock was removed. It has flourished in that area. I know they have said that they'll direct the dinghies to a certain area, and there'll be monitoring reports, and they'll report to the commission. I just think I'll leave it at that.
So let me ask a question. I'm sorry, Pat. Maureen's going to hate me for saying this, but what about single rail fence line the path?
Not in the marsh, Mr. Chairman. It just won't be appropriate to put in the marsh.
Why I'm asking. Pat?
Yeah. I don't want, one of the things that the applicant did was acting as if they were victimized because their dock that was there before was removed, and they just want to have some kind of lesser version of the prior dock. But the prior dock wasn't permitted under 91 or under our regulations. So I think we have to start, with a clean slate and recognize, because this is in a V zone, this is a way of circumventing the prohibition of a dock in the V zone. That's how I'm looking at it. It's a way of trying to wiggle around the regulation. And it does. I remember Courtney saying this at one of our hearings, that you're creating these vertical walls with the two boats in a V zone. Not too not the best of circumstances. I also, Betsy said something. Why don't you talk about that raising the stairs? You had an idea that I thought was.
Yeah, so
quite
we've had a couple of staircases in velocity zones, like off Beckles Avenue. And we've required
The hinging of the end of
the
them.
hinging, which I think would be appropriate. I mean, I don't think people are going to be using it in the wintertime to go down there. And, when you're likely to get storms, it would be better. I mean, a big storm is going to probably take it even if you pull it up, but maybe the bottom 10 feet or something. How high is that? How high is that bank there?
Hang on.
On that.
About 9 feet, because I go from a spot grade of 1.3 to a spot grade of 9.3 and 9.4 right at the top of the stairs. So I'd say around 9 feet.
So maybe the bottom couple of feet.
I remember we've done that before, Bets, in you're right, Beckles Road, and I can't remember where else.
Well, another one over there on Buzzards Bay.
Cape Cotter.
Cape Cotter area.
The one off Adrift Road has a hinged bottom staircase too.
Okay.
How does
the bottom third.
The dinghies
Well,
though?
there's one out of Chappie. That's staircase.
Chappie.
Yeah.
But that doesn't address the issue of the dinghies.
Well, I don't think the dinghy should be allowed, but that's just my 2 cents. And I think Betsy's idea is a good one. To allow the
I don't think they should be allowed either.
Yeah.
And how are we going to enforce this?
Well, enforcement's always difficult.
Huh?
Well, Courtney, they would have to come back with a redesign of the staircase without the digging racks and with a hinged bottom. And that plan would have to be submitted prior to,
Getting a building permit.
Yeah, us issuing a building permit. It would have to show the bottom part of it hinged and the 2 storage areas removed. That's how it would be done.
So would that require a whole new notice of intent, or would you be willing to work forward? Okay.
Oh, it'd be a new plan.
It'd just be a new plan.
Requirement of the order. Okay.
Yeah, we've done that before. It's having them submit a plan showing a hinged bottom. That's nothing new.
Okay.
That doesn't address the boats.
No, it doesn't. So where the boats go?
I don't.
I mean, I'm just quite, is there a place they could build a rack out of the velocity zone?
They could probably put a rack on Ferry Road.
Yeah, and
There's also a town landing very close by.
They are making the town landing's right down the road, and they are creating an association for that easement. So any sort of kayak rack or something like that could be stored up there, and the boats carried down the staircase.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm asking a question because it'll come back to us. And I think we should be able to give them some guidance. So
I understand this, that we're looking for a finding that would require a portion of the stairway to be hinged. And then a finding about that the boat storage would not be allowed. Am I understanding that right?
It could be in the upland. They could build racks up in the upland to carry their boats down. not to store them on the dock
Or in the marsh.
or in the marsh.
Couldn't you have a rail system? Like in a pulley to get the boats up and down?
I think we're making this into a dock, and this isn't supposed to be a dock. This was supposed to be access to the water for them to walk down to get to the beach.
Well, yeah, but I'm being practical. They're gonna want to bring a kayak down there. Well,
Right, but I
there
think
could be
what we're looking for is the finding to and correct me, but the finding would say that the no boat storage, and then however they want to design it. I mean, we shouldn't design it for them.
that could come afterwards. Okay.
Right. Anything else?
Oh, no future armoring.
No future armoring.
Yeah, that was on my notes.
So you're gonna make a finding about the Osprey pole, finding that there's no storage of anything on the salt marsh itself. A finding and a special condition that the staircase has to be hinged. A finding about the creation of the association. And the signage.
Boat storage in the upland.
And all boat storage in upland. Then a special, and then a condition. Hang on 1 second. And then special condition, revised plan with the hinged and no dinghy rack? Correct?
No boats.
Okay.
Did they file a maintenance and stabilization plan? Did you say that earlier? Okay, no, I just know there was some conversation about they were agreeing to maintain the bank, and I just didn't know what that would entail.
Well, if they're going to build the staircase, they're going to have to maintain the bank. So they were going to create the association to construct the staircase, and they can't construct the staircase according to Bob Ament until they create the association. I think that, Pat, you asked for the land court documents on that.
Yeah, I was just curious as to what he was talking about because it was pretty vague, but they're not relevant to our discussions.
Okay.
It just has to do with private property rights and what they agreed.
Okay.
Maury's point about no hard armoring reminded me that I thought they offered to submit a maintenance plan for the bank. I guess I'm wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it was going to be, if they were, it was going to be soft stabilization for the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're proposing to plant the bank.
Okay.
Peter?
I have a question for Jen. Could you just reaffirm that the existing or prior steps, dock, pier, whatever it was built after the regulations went into force, like 1978 or whatever? In my mind, I want to be sure that the structure that we are not allowing for the pier was prior to the regulations?
It may have been prior to wetlands regulations, Peter, but it was not prior to Chapter 91. So that's the piece that was missing when Superstorm Sandy hit, is the regulations came out for Superstorm Sandy. So a lot of times DEP will issue emergency regulations ahead of a storm, knowing that we're all going to be scrambling after the storm. So in the case of Sandy, they issued regulations that said if something was damaged more than 50% and did not have a Chapter 91 license, it could not be rebuilt under the emergency regs. Okay. So I put in the record that we, when we went to go look at the neighbors or the south
neighboring
west
property
owners, so it would have been Thoreau. If you're looking at the staircase or the bank, the neighbor on the right, I wouldn't go down those stairs because they were all damaged. And I remember Tom Corvo making the same statement at the hearing that he wouldn't go down the stairs either. I actually had to go down the other set of stairs on the other side of the property, go onto the guy's dock, put on his waders in order to walk into the water to see the damaged bulkhead that I was there to see, because I wouldn't go down that particular set of stairs.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It was damaged more than 50%. And according to the Hurricane Sandy regulations, because they didn't have a license, it cannot be rebuilt.
That's what the Superstorm Sandy regulations did say. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was the short answer. Thank you, Peter.
We looked for a license, Peter. We didn't find one.
All right, everybody good on this?
You ready for a motion?
Please.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second. Jennifer?
Just no outhauls too. We should put no outhauls. So no storage of boats on the marsh and no outhauls. Because I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Ready for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin, I'm sorry, Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Chris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. All right, next up. John A. Samorian, 21 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This is the amended order where they want to
just want to include an area that wasn't otherwise used, right?
Yeah, they want to include an area because they want to keep the lawn area. Alyssa, do I have that right? The bump out lawn area? You did your deep dive into this one.
Yes. Originally, I don't recall, like, when was it? Back in the 90s, I think, when this started, where the mitigation let me start over, sorry. When this was initially issued, the transformation of lawn to native shrubs, I believe, was in a different section. But once 2018 came along, they were proposing that bump out to be restored as the native vegetation. They are now proposing that in the two separate mitigation areas. One will be, I believe, south of the fence, and one towards the north of the property.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What are you thinking? Anybody have anything?
I'll make a motion to issue an order order of conditions as discussed.
Bird
It's an
second.
amendment.
Oh, to
It's really a
approve
motion
the
to accept
amendment,
the amendment, correct?
accept the amendment.
Okay.
Something?
I did, I second.
Can we make
I
a
thought I
motion?
saw- Can you stop interrupting me? I saw Alyssa's hand up. I thought I
I just
did.
wanted to make a comment about the tree again, which is being proposed in the middle of the woods. I don't know that it's gonna survive in there. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
I think
Jen?
the tree should be moved and then they're cutting all the rows, correct, Alyssa? So that's what I was gonna say. We need to make a special condition that they stop cutting their mitigation.
Yep.
Move the
So what are we
tree.
actually issuing, an amendment?
You're issuing an amendment.
Conditions to it.
Yeah, you can put conditions onto an amendment.
And did we want to amend the mitigation plantings as well? Staff had concerns with the use of Virginia rose and sweet fern. I'm not sure if the commission shares those concerns.
You know how I feel about sweet fern. Especially along the edges like that,
They'll just be mowed, so no sweet fern.
woody indigenous.
Okay.
Because that one's, I think that, I don't have the plan, I only had I have the top notes that, you know, that's another one that there's a lot of space, you know, it's not the 3 gallon, 3 foot on center, but it was a good design. But again, it's sweet fern and Carolina rose are the outstanding plant there.
What are they proposing, Alyssa? Sweet fern and Carolina rose?
Sweet fern and Virginia were the two that we had concerns about.
Yeah.
Other proposed species were also bayberry, high bush blueberry, winterberry.
Okay, there's a lot of rows on that site, so I'd like to see the roses switched out for something else, and we can come up with something.
Yep,
Even
that's fine.
clethra.
That's fine.
All right, switch them out for clethra.
All right, anything else? Going. All right. Betsy and Courtney, would you reaffirm your motion and second to accept the amended order?
So I reaffirm my motion to accept the amended order as additionally discussed.
Perfect.
I'll reaffirm my second to the affirmed second first revised version.
God, we're politically correct. All right. We have a motion and a second, blah, blah, blah. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Hughes, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawk's eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
And aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended. We have accepted the amendment. That's it, folks.
So given my advanced age, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Carlo Hawk's second.
Gladfelter, aye.
I'll second it.
Bird eye.
Pat and I.
Carlo Hawk's
Harris,
aye.
aye.
Walsh, aye.
We're all over the place.
All righty. We're adjourned.
How are you, Jamie?
Birthday, Courtney.
Yeah. I'm just following
Jamie wants
along.
to stay.